All right. Mock draft. Redraft. 1 year. All or nothing.
They've already stopped the episode. And
Yeah,
went
they're
on to
like,
something else.
no.
Who the fuck
Oh,
is this
yeah.
We're going to get -3 viewers now.
Anyway, it's Saturday, July 2nd, and Bum Nation for you today. We have
Mock
our
draft.
first
Fuck off, Tom.
official mock draft. Jason, do the honors and mix up the order. This is a full PPR 12-team draft. 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, a flex, and 4 bench spots. We got 11 total rounds.
Ew.
Dealers,
What are our picks?
4 bench spots and 2 wide receivers.
Dealers, shuffle up the cards and let's play.
So because I like to make things as
All right.
complicated as possible, instead of just clicking the randomized draft order on the Sleeper app, I am going to ask Siri to randomize a number 1 through 12 for each of us, starting with
Just
Brandon.
start the draft and it'll give us a ring.
Hey Siri, pick a number between 1 and 12. Brandon will have the 9th pick.
Ah,
Hey Siri,
loser.
pick a number between 1 and 12.
A random number between 1 and 12 is 3.
Dom will have the 3rd pick.
Ha.
I thought she was just going to say
Bro.
9 every time.
Could you imagine?
Dom, claim the 3rd pick.
I don't
Hey,
want the
Siri.
3rd pick.
Pick a number between 1 and 12.
A random number between 1 and 12 is 11.
Nick will have
Let's
the
go.
11th pick.
All right, I like that for Nick.
That's decent.
Hey Siri. Pick. Hey Siri.
Dominic just crapped his pants over here.
Bro, that was my jersey.
Just shat in your new Kyle Pitts jersey.
That was the jersey rubbing
Breaking
up
it in, are you?
Look, that's the jersey rubbing up against
Siri
the metal.
was picking up everything you guys just said. It says, "Hey Siri, show me cracked in Spanish." Hey Siri,
Dude,
pick a
that's my
number
jersey
between 1 and
rubbing up
12.
Against the metal.
A random number between 1 and 12 is 3.
Siri wants me to also have the 3rd pick. One more time.
See?
Hey Siri, pick a number between 1 and 12.
I knew that was going to happen.
She's thinking.
2.
On it, a random number between 1 and 12 is 1.
Jason's
Yikes.
got the 101.
Fuck me. This always happens.
Bro, that doesn't.
I wanted Siri to give you an attitude and be like,
That means
I
JT's
already
gonna,
told you 3. I'm not changing my mind.
Okay.
Now he's gonna take Jonathan Taylor. I don't know who to grab.
Are we ready to begin?
Dom's like, Jason now is the 101, and even though JT was going to go 101 anyway, now I don't know who I want at the 103.
We have begun.
Draft has begun.
Okay. Hold on, I need to mute
All right,
this
can
sleeper
we
thing
can
before.
we clear this up? Whoever is drafting is the only one talking.
That's fair.
All right, fine.
Okay, well, I'm just going to pick Jonathan Taylor. I don't really think there's much to talk about that.
Derrick Henry went at the 102, and now Dom's up.
Bro, what?
Do do do
What?
do 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 do.
It's
The
not
picks are
updated.
not showing up for Dom.
Yeah, I don't.
Leave and come back. It does that all the time.
Technical difficulties. Okay. It says already joined, drafting. There it is.
Okay.
Welcome back from our commercial break.
Dang it. Well, okay. Gee. Derrick Henry and JT are gone. This is why the number 3 sucks and you never want it.
Fuck! JT and Derrick Henry are the only 2 guys I wanted.
Yeah.
like, man,
I'm already tilting.
He's like, man, this draft is over. I might as well leave. So yeah.
See you guys next year.
Like, I'm out.
So you could either take Christian McCaffrey, who's been injured 2 years in a row. Or you could take Austin Eckler,
Or you can pick your guy.
who was the number 2 last year.
You can pick your guy, Devontae
Hey,
Adams.
he has a 5-minute timer, and he is on the clock. Let him think it
I have the talking
out.
pillow. Okay.
The talking pillow. The talking pillow.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right. Since it's a redraft, I'm going
Dude, when we film
Austin Eckler.
for YouTube, we should actually get a talking pillow.
We fucking need it.
Yeah.
All right. Cooper Kupp goes number 4. Christian McCaffrey at 5. Justin Jefferson at 6. Dalvin Cook at 7. Najee Harris at 8. And Brandon is fucked because that's everybody that he wanted to take.
Now,
Brandon's
Jamar
gotta
Chase
go.
is still there.
Yeah, I guess Jamar Chase is
Don't
still there.
pick
He's so
Jamar
right.
Chase.
Devontae Adams.
I will shit myself.
Joe Mixon.
So here's the problem. This is a full PPR.
Uh-huh.
So, hey, shut the fuck up. It's my turn.
You know what? You can take your talking pillow and shove it.
Shove it where?
Only if you do it.
I already have.
Okay. That's gross.
You're going to have to get it first, though.
All right. So I'm at the 109, and Jason is unfortunately correct. Everyone who I obviously would have taken, I probably would have taken Najee had he fallen to me. Yeah, it's interesting because running backs are still more valuable in a full PPR, but wide receivers are more valuable than they would be in a standard or half PPR.
Yeah, but you can...
Jamar Chase would be a good pick, but while I'm not in the last 2 picks of the first round, I don't want to take a wide receiver. Joe Mixon is still there. He was the 4th running back in full PPR last year. They have an improved offensive line. He's one of the only workhorses in the league. He's still going to have quite a workload. And I would argue that he could potentially have more touchdowns than DeAndre Swift, but DeAndre Swift is the guy that's on the up and up, will probably have way more receptions. But where I worry with him is he's not as good between the tackles. You have to rely on him in the open field and with his pass catching ability, but that also makes him way more valuable in a full PPR. So
If I were you, Brandon, I would take Chase, and one of either Joe Mixon, DeAndre Swift, or Nick Chubb will be there at your next pick.
I do not agree with that.
I mean, Justin Jefferson was taken at the 106.
Nick, you don't agree with that because you want fucking Jamar Chase.
And
That's
Cooper
true.
Kupp was taken at the 104. So, I mean, with Cooper Kupp, Jefferson, and Chase being the clear top 3 wide receivers, yeah, I guess I would rather have a top 3 wide receiver than a bottom of the top 5 running back. I'll take the upside, and I'll take the explosiveness. So I'm going Jamar Chase.
I
Sorry,
hate
Nick.
myself.
I hope fucking Nick takes Swift and Chubb both
Joe
on his
Mixon-
next 2 of his next 4 picks.
Joe Mixon went right after at the 110, so now Nick's up. He's going to have 2 picks in a row.
How do you feel about that, Nick? He took your player.
Nick, how does that make you feel?
2 times in a row.
I don't care.
How do you feel about that?
Why do I want the
How do you
fun?
feel about that Pats
Dominic,
player
my
you
turn
want,
to
huh?
talk. You don't have the fucking talking pillow, so shut up. All right, Devontae Adams. Do I still want him? No. I don't know.
He's just going to go cry.
He's got chapstick in his pocket and he's rubbing it all over his face. You're a dirty whore.
We should have fucking done 3 minutes.
We might have to change it because Nick is going to take the whole fucking time.
No, I'm not.
Nick, just take DeAndre Swift.
I don't want DeAndre Swift.
Then take Devontae Adams.
Take Stephon Diggs.
All right, got my pick. I'm going Buckley.
Okay, interesting.
Okay. Nick takes Saquon Barkley, even though it's not 2018 anymore. Dom just yelled bro from the bathroom.
Stephon Diggs goes 12, and Travis Kelce gets taken on the turn of the second round. And that puts Nick back on the clock with 4.5 minutes remaining on his timer.
And DeAndre Swift is still there, who should have gone in the first.
Sleeper has him ranked a lot lower than I probably would. But I think, actually, now that I say that, I had him as the 8th ranked running back, and if he was picked right now, he'd be the 9th running back off the board. So, like, I guess it's not that far.
Yeah,
it just depends. I just value running backs more than receivers.
Well, wide receivers are getting taken earlier now. We just had 4 wide receivers go in the first round, which most would say is a lot.
I think Cooper Kupp, Justin Jefferson, and Jamar Chase are worthy of first-round picks. Stephon Diggs,
not quite.
not so much, but he was barely taken in the first round, so I'm not really stressing about that.
I went Adams.
You got sniped again.
I was hoping DeAndre Swift would fall to me, but he just went at the 2-3 before my pick. I now have the 2-4. I'm up. Okay. So at wide receiver right now, there's Tyreek Hill, CeeDee Lamb, Deebo Samuel, and right after the turn into the second round, I don't think any of them are worthy of this pick. I'm probably going to take a running back here. So Kamara might have a suspension coming up this year, and with a new quarterback and head coach and lost a couple O-linemen, I don't think he's worthy of an early second-round pick. So I'm thinking either Nick Chubb, Aaron Jones, or Javonte Williams. So Javonte Williams would be a risky-ish pick because he probably wouldn't be worth the pick until later in the year. Or maybe he'll split with Melvin Gordon the entire year. But it's a risk that I would have to be willing to take and bank on him breaking out this year. And if he were to break out, and by break out I mean take at least 70% of the snap share, he could be league winning. But without Deshaun Watson and a trustworthy a trustworthy passer, they still have a top 5 O-line. I think Kevin Stefanski and the Browns are still going to commit to the run game. So I'm going to go Nick Chubb.
And then Alvin Kamara follows. Then Josh Allen, Tyreek Hill, Deebo Samuel, Aaron Jones, and that puts Dom on the clock.
You're up.
Dom's up, and I already know who he's taking. Can you be any louder?
Okay. All right. Ooh. Okay.
I have 2 people that I have my eye on for the turn, and it's very
One thing that I'll
slim
mention
chance
too
that
about
they
Nick
fall.
Chubb is that the Browns have a pretty easy schedule through the first 4 weeks minus Pittsburgh. So that's a good look too. Anyway.
All right.
All right.
So, CeeDee Lamb is available. A.J. Brown is available. Kyle Pitts. Mark Andrews is up there in the 210. Javonte Williams, obviously. I'm not too high on him. He's going to be benched all season, so. Melvin Gordon should just retire already. He's bad.
Agreed. Well, I wouldn't say bad, but he should
He's
retire.
definitely not bad, but he's holding Javonte back.
Yeah, well, Javante's better. So. Cooper Cup is gone. Dak needs someone to throw to other than Dalton Schultz.
Amari Cooper is gone, you mean?
Yeah, I said Amari Cooper.
You said Cooper Cup.
Oh, well. Did I? No, I didn't.
You did.
Well, Amari Cooper's gone. I'm going to take CeeDee Lamb.
Wow.
Fucking Christ.
Holy shit.
I thought for sure Javonte was going to fall.
You just got sniped.
I wanted Javonte and Mark Andrews as my 2 picks here. I really do think that Mark Andrews has the highest ceiling of any tight end this year. Travis Kelce already was drafted. I think Travis Kelce has the highest floor just because of the targets that are now open in Kansas City with him already being the consensus top target. But Mark Andrews is in a similar situation where he's the top tight end, the top target on his offense, and then they just lost their number 1 wide receiver, so now there's a lot of targets to go around for him as well.
I won't be surprised if Mark Andrews goes very near or even before Kelce this year.
So I'm very, very happy to have grabbed him at the 212. I really, really wanted Javonte Williams here and then to take Mark Andrews on the turn of the 3rd, but here we are anyway. Man, this sucks because I usually like to have 2 running backs by now, but I don't think any of the running backs left are worth taking at this spot.
I see a few.
But unfortunately, if I don't take a running back here, then I'm going to be stuck with like Elijah Mitchell as my RB2, and I definitely don't want that. So I think because of that, I am going to go with Leonard Fournette as my RB2 at the 301.
Yep. Right after that is Kyle Pitts. Wow. No George Kittle or Darren Waller. Kyle Pitts is the 3rd tight end taken off the board in the 3rd round, and Dom is now up.
And he got sniped.
Well, I was looking at Kyle Pitts, but I think there's... Is that dog food?
They're cough drops.
Oh. Bro, okay.
What?
Okay, I saw that.
All
I
right, Dom.
saw that, and I... So, there are other people up on the board. James Conner, one in mind. He finished 5th overall last year. He is good.
Yeah, he is.
Very good. Yeah, he's pretty good. Mike Evans is on the board. I honestly don't know what to do for this pick.
If I were you, I would go Mike Evans here.
I was going to say I am
Yeah.
torn as
Oh,
well.
Okay. Well,
I personally think Keenan Allen is a better pick just because he has a higher floor every week.
But he's already got Eckler.
Yeah.
That's true.
So he's kind of capping his upside there.
Well, I'm going Mike Evans over
But
because
if you would
They're-
rather go with an RB2 so that you don't have to worry about it later, James
I'm
Conner
taking-
just signed a 3-year deal, and even with Darrell Williams just signing, Conner's going to be the RB1 in Arizona.
well, I'm going to take the better player. I'm not going to sacrifice my team just so I can have 2 running backs.
It's a good point.
I mean, you say that, but again, like I was just saying a minute ago, if you wait another almost 2 full rounds, another almost 2 full rounds, who's going to still be there at running back when it's your turn again?
It's very scary and nearly impossible to stream a running back.
Correct.
Whereas wide receiver is so deep, it's probably the easiest position to stream if you had to.
Well, I'm still going Mike Evans.
'Kay.
They have the number 2 offense with number 1 in passing yards, attempts, and touchdowns. And with Mike Evans being a arguably touchdown-dependent receiver.
Antonio Brown is gone, and Chris Godwin is going to be out for a while to start the season. So.
True.
there.
All right.
My team is looking the best so far.
Mike Evans goes, Keenan Allen follows, then Cam Akers, then A.J. Brown, and then George Kittle finally goes off the board, followed by Antonio Gibson, and that puts Brandon on the clock.
So I've already got Jamar Chase, so I don't want to go with T. Higgins here. At running back, Zeke and Connor are still available. And at tight end, Darren Waller, T.J. Hawkinson, Dalton Schultz are available. I like one of these tight ends, but I think I would be able to get them later. Wide receiver is deep enough where if I take my second running back here, I will feel a lot better about having a solid pair at running back and then just bring in some wide receivers later on that I can filter in. So here, the Cowboys O-line is not nearly what it was. Zeke is not who he was. They're probably going to be playing from behind. But James Conner, I don't know. James Conner was just irrelevant for a few years. It's very possible that he had a peak year last year, and while he could be a solid RB2, Arizona is also a very pass-heavy team. Most of his points came from inside the 10 and goal line. And touchdowns have been known to be one of the only stats that is not consistent going into the next year. Zeke is still the highest paid running back in the league. They still have to use him to get the most out of him. They have a lot of trust in him. They no longer have Amari Cooper, so that also leaves quite a few targets vacant. Tony Pollard is not far behind, but I don't think he's as close to taking Zeke's job as, say, A.J. Dillon is to taking Aaron Jones' job. So I'm going to take Zeke here. So now I've got my two running backs set, and Justin Herbert goes after, and now Nick is on the clock.
My turn. Let's say you got a running back, you got a wide receiver. The quarterback just went, as you guys can see, before me. That's Patrick Mahomes. I think I can get more value for quarterback later on that I think are in better situations than Patrick Mahomes. So I'm going to skip him.
You more than likely could just get Patrick Mahomes on the wrap anyway if you wanted him, because Team 12 hasn't drafted a running back yet, so they're definitely, or I would think, they would go with at least one of the two running backs in James Conner and David Montgomery. Unless you take one of them here.
I don't know how good David Montgomery is going to do this year, but I don't think he'd be a bad RB2 for sure.
I think, honestly, if you drafted David Montgomery or James Conner, they would be your RB1. Like, I see both of them easily having the path to do better this season than Saquon Barkley, just because Saquon Barkley, I don't think is going to be able to stay on the field.
Yeah.
So, if I were you, I would go with the one that you think has the higher ceiling.
Well, do you think the Bears are going to run the ball a lot?
Yeah, 100%.
I think so. I am going Montgomery. So that solved my running back issues.
James Conner and Pat Mahomes go
whatever.
from the 3-12 to the 4-1, and now Nick is back up.
So I could go tight end here. I could go running back again. Wide receiver, QB.
If Nick doesn't draft who I think he should draft here, I think Team 10 is by far going to be the best team through 4 rounds.
I think the 3-10 was early to take a quarterback. Before the Justin Herbert pick, Joe Mixon and DeAndre Swift was a good pairing.
My mindset here is if T. Higgins falls and Joe Mixon, DeAndre Swift, and T. Higgins are your top 3 players with Justin Herbert as your quarterback, I don't think that like anybody else on the board right now has anything that even comes close to competing with that. But that's if Nick doesn't take T. Higgins here.
We'll just have to cut out some of the silence.
So I was looking at Waddle, but I don't know. I don't want Lamar Jackson. Mari Cooper, I do not want. Jay Judy could be interesting. My man Joe Burrow, I like him. But I get a lot of shares of Burrow. That's the problem. I'd say Murray, but we all know that Hopkins is gonna be out most of the, 6 weeks of the year. Man, this is kind of tough.
I don't think it's really a question. I think there's one person that is just by far the best player on the board. I don't know how T. Higgins has fallen this far.
That's what I was looking at.
I was thinking that too.
Like, I understand why Brandon passed on him, but he should have been the pick before Brandon. But then Brandon passed for obvious reasons. And then the fact that he fell 4 more picks past that to now is, like, kind of crazy.
I know who I'm going.
Go for it.
I think so. I went Terry Corin.
Damn. Okay. So, yeah, Team 10 now is Joe Mixon, DeAndre Swift, Justin Herbert, and T. Higgins. Nick takes Scary Terry, and then T. Higgins goes right before me. Now it is my pick, and once again, the wide receiver position is very deep, and I'd rather wait for a tight end because there's still some good ones on the board, and running back is the hardest position to predict. It's also the one that gets injured the most. So I'm going to take a guy who just got a revamped offense but will still be a very important part. And in the 4th round, he was the RB11 last year. I'll take Josh Jacobs. I'll take him as a good flex. So after that, it is Deontay Johnson, J.K. Dobbins, Breece Hall, Travis Etienne, and D.K. Metcalf. And now it is back to Dom.
Well, this is kind of hard. Darren Waller is still on the board at the 410. I think he's very good, but with Devontae Adams there and with Derek Carr and Devontae Adams being college teammates, I think Darren Waller won't get as much value as he should. Like, he isn't going to do very well.
So I can see, like, right now where Dom is. What I'm thinking right now is that it's really tempting to take Waddle in the late 4th round. But with him only having one running back, in my opinion, there are only 2 guys left
that are starting
that are start worthy at the running back position. I feel like that's a position of need right now. I think you really should take a running back. But if you want to just go for pure upside and take Waddle, I mean, I get it, but I would much rather not have to stream the wide receiver position. And there's a very good chance that these 2 running backs that I'm seeing right now are going to go before it gets back to you.
Yep.
Jason's the only team with. Oh, sorry. The team 7 also does not have a wide receiver.
Miles Sanders is on the board. I do not like Miles Sanders. He played 12 games this season. He did not get a touchdown in any of those 12 games, receiving or rushing. I do not feel comfortable with a running back who can get 15 plus rushes and only get 6 points. So I'm going to pass on him.
Not Miles Sanders.
Yes.
I think what you just said is an argument to take him at this spot.
No.
Because no running back ever. I haven't fact checked this, but it's extremely unlikely to see a running back have as many touches as Miles Sanders did last year and score 0 touchdowns. If he gets the same volume that he did last year, he's not going to score 0 touchdowns again. Same thing with Kyle Pitts. You don't have that many targets in an offense and have 1 touchdown.
If I were him, I'd go Clyde here.
Yeah,
I agree, but
that's what I was going to
saying,
say.
And a
Just
full,
about to say that.
what you're saying
Can I-
makes sense.
No, I agree. I think Clyde is the better pick here, but I'm just saying what Dom just said about Miles Sanders is an argument for him more than against him, I think.
Right.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire, they just lost Tyreek Hill. Their passing game isn't going to be as strong. I think if he doesn't get injured, he's going to do a lot better for the Chiefs.
So statistically, in an offense where a lot of targets are vacated because a top wide receiver leaves, most of those targets statistically go to the running back position. So in a full PPR, Clyde at the 410, I think is a very good pick.
Last year, he was dealing with some illness. I can't remember what it was, but it was through all of preseason, he was bedridden pretty much because he was so sick and came into the season not 100% and struggled the whole year for it. Now we're potentially going to get rookie year Clyde with 2 to 3 more targets per game, which is definitely
he's a DeAndre Swift-esque player, as far as being a smaller running back who is elite in the pass catching aspect, but has a much better quarterback and a much better offense. So taking that in the 4th round, whereas DeAndre Swift went in the 2nd, but will probably go in the 1st round in most PPR drafts this year, I think it's a very good pick. I think Dom's team's looking solid right now. So Jalen Waddle goes at the 4-11, and now Jason's up with 2 picks in a row entering the 5th round.
I was really hoping that Jalen Waddle would fall and I could get Jalen Waddle and DJ Moore here. I didn't think that Jalen Waddle should fall to this pick. I was really afraid that Dom was going to take him. And Team 2 hadn't drafted a wide receiver yet, so it did make sense that they would take it. So I'm going to go DJ Moore with my 412. And for my 5-1, I would like to get another wide receiver here. I don't love Michael Pittman. And if I were to wait on a quarterback, more than likely I would end up with Jalen Hurts or Russell Wilson, which I don't mind Russell Wilson. I wouldn't want Jalen Hurts.
This next round, quarterbacks are going to fly.
Yeah, that's where I'm kind of torn. So I can either go Michael Pittman and lock up my wide receiver 2 on a guy that I don't necessarily love, but
so in my
I think
opinion,
he has plenty of upside, or I could draft Lamar Jackson and secure my running back or my quarterback, and then worry about wide receiver later in the draft.
For you, Jason, I can easily see Prescott, Brady, Rodgers, and Stafford falling to you at your next pick.
Yeah, I definitely agree, and I
Not
wouldn't
if I
mind
take
having
one.
either of those guys.
So where you already have a tight end, the player that I would be looking at right now, honestly, I did not think that he would go as high as the 5-1. I was hoping he would be a guy people would overlook this year. But Michael Pittman was the wide receiver 15 last year for Carson Wentz. And now he's got Matt Ryan, who I think objectively is a much better pass catcher. And I think he's going to be the wide receiver 1 for this offense as well.
Matt Ryan is a better pass catcher?
Sorry, Matt Ryan is a much better passer. than Carson Wentz. And Pittman was already the wide receiver 15 last year, and I think he has proved to be the wide receiver 1 for this offense.
I agree. I was going to say the only reason I'm hesitant on Michael Pittman is that I think the only reason that he did well last year is because he was the only person on that offense that could do anything out wide. And I'm realizing now that they haven't really added anybody else aside
nothing
from
has
him.
changed other than the quarterback.
So I think that is probably a good pick. I think I'm undervaluing Michael Pittman.
I was hoping he
as
would
a
fall to me at
prospect.
my next pick, but all right, Lamar goes right after Jason's pick, and now Dom's back up.
All right, so we ran into some technical difficulties. My computer that we're using to record is acting up and doesn't have enough battery to last through the rest of the recording session that we have. So we are going to change the draft timer to 1 minute per pick instead of 5 minutes per pick to hopefully get through the rest of this stuff now that the meat of the draft in the first 4.5 rounds are done. We'll speed it up a little bit to hopefully get through this a little bit faster. So I'll change it to 60-second draft timer, and then Dom will be on the clock with 1 minute to go.
All right, Dom, you're up.
Well, at my pick, I am going to be taking Cooper Kupp at the 503. Deshaun Watson.
Amari Cooper.
Amari Cooper. You keep saying Cooper Kupp.
I did not. I swear.
You said
that you
Cooper
did it
Kupp.
again.
Bro, I swear I didn't.
You said Cooper Kupp. You have 30 seconds.
Okay, Amari Cooper. Deshaun Watson is a good talent, and he has no targets.
He's probably not going to play.
Doesn't matter. Amari Cooper's still the one on that offense. I don't think that's a bad pick.
Yeah.
All right, following Amari Cooper, Jerry Jeudy goes as Team 4's 4th receiver off the board. Then Cortland Sutton follows right behind. Darren Waller gets taken, and then Marquise Brown. And then Joe Burrow gets taken one time before Brandon, which means that he has been sniped for the 3rd time this draft.
I would have really liked to stack Burrow with Chase. Now that I didn't get him, I am not going to take a quarterback. There's still good enough quarterbacks right now. With Godwin being out the first, 6 weeks of the season, he's probably not worth taking as my 2 right now. So I'll go ahead and take a guy who just got his contract with the number 2 quarterback from last year. He was not well trusted for the second half of last year, but with that contract solidifying his place on the offense for the next 3 years, I'll take Mike Williams.
Yep.
And I get sniped because Dalton Schultz got taken. I was going to take Dalton Schultz with my next pick.
Yeah, Sleeper Drafts has him going the computer players pick him a lot higher than he's ranked.
I'm waiting for a tight end too now then because
So I'm thinking about going quarterback here. So either Kyler Murray or Russell Wilson.
I fucking hate how you draft, dude.
Why? What do you hate how I
'Cause you're
draft?
so bad.
I don't think that's a bad pick.
No.
I think the rest of his team is
Yeah.
bad right now, but a quarterback here where he has 2 and 2 isn't a bad thing.
I mean, okay.
Who do
I
I-
just think Saquon was a very bad pick. You should not have taken Saquon.
All right,
should
anyway,
not-
explain your thought process. You only have
So-
19 seconds.
Which one's going to pass more? I think Arizona has the worst running back, so they're going to rely on the passing game more. So I'm going to go Murray.
Chris Godwin follows, and then Michael Thomas, and then Nick is back on the clock.
I'm going Mr. Touchdown himself. Hold on, maybe not.
Yeah, interesting thought
question.
process. Yep.
What's the bridge in London called again?
What?
Wait, hold on. What's the bridge called again? That's
London Bridge.
I was just wondering because I'm going Drake London.
Oh my God! Of course you are. Amon-Ra St. Brown goes right after
Stupidest
Drake
fucking
London.
thing I've ever
I
seen
was
in my
hoping
entire
Amon-Ra
life.
St. Brown would fall to me, but
Yeah, same.
oh well, then I wouldn't have got him. Brandon is on the clock with 48 to go. 3 running backs and 2 receivers in his pocket right now.
I don't care about any of the tight ends right now. I'm not reaching.
Man, you guys really are hating on
2,
Hawkinson.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Really, the top 6, 7 wide receivers up right now. I am not a big fan of. I feel like I could wait for another wide receiver. Elijah Mitchell and Miles Sanders are still up on the board, and they're pretty solid. I think very good for the 6th round. I'm thinking of taking my 4th running back or going quarterback here.
I'd probably go quarterback.
Yeah, if I don't go quarterback,
I'm definitely taking a quarterback with one of my next 2 picks.
Okay, well then I guess I should take a quarterback before the.
why am I on auto pick?
Oh, your time probably went out.
Oh fuck! I timed out.
Well, TJ Hawkinson was the pick I would have gone with at that spot if I were you. Okay.
All right, with my pick.
I completely forgot that I only had a minute, and I was trying to explain stuff, but that's all right. I timed out.
With
TJ,
my pick,
I got my tight end. I guess.
I need a tight end. I'm going Dawson Knox. They're Russell Wilson, Matt Stafford, Tom Brady are still on the board, and I know Jason is not drafting 2 QBs, hopefully,
Okay.
and Team 2 it already has a QB, so I know I for sure am going to land at least
You're taking
one of my
Jason's
QBs.
time.
Say,
right
Dom,
now.
when you make your pick, explain before you push select.
Yeah.
Anyway, TJ Hawkinson was selected by Brandon, then followed by AJ Dillon, followed by Elijah Mitchell, then Jalen Hurts, Brandon Cooks, DeAndre Hopkins gets drafted in the 5th or 6th round, and then Dawson Knox, followed by Damian Harris, and that puts me on the clock where I'm going to take Miles Sanders as my 3rd running back. I really do think that last year with his touchdown production was a fluke, and I think this year will be a lot better for him with a revamped and hopefully a more efficient offense this year. I think he's poised to have a comeback season. The Eagles trust him. He's shown that he can be pretty good, and I think that he'll have a better season this year. So I'm definitely not upset about having him at my flex spot. And then I'll follow him up by drafting Russell Wilson as my quarterback.
You know what? I'm not upset about the Hawkinson pick because looking at the quarterbacks, Brady was the best one, and there were like 5 before him. So I technically would have been reaching anyway.
Yep.
Now that I look at it.
And then Allen Robinson follows me as the 7-2, which leaves Dom on the clock.
I am going to take Tom Brady for obvious reasons. I'm pairing him with Mike Evans.
Yeah. I would have. I like going with the stack. Why am I on auto pick? Bro, I'm on auto
I'll
pick.
pause it now, and then I'll go back, because that is...
I was going to say.
Are you good now? Remove. And remove.
Okay.
And now I will resume the draft. Cool. Now you have 55 seconds.
Okay. Thank you.
I don't know why I did that.
I could go Dak, but I think Amari Cooper made him. I don't think he's going to be nearly as good as when he had Cooper and when they had an easy schedule for the first part of the year. They actually are projected to have one of the easiest schedules this year. But while I already have Zeke, I'm basically committing to the running back room. And while he does get targets, I don't want to commit to the entire Cowboys offense with the running back and the quarterback. So I'm going to go ahead and take new Super Bowl winner Matt Stafford as my quarterback.
So I could go get somebody for the bench or my tight end spot. What I'm thinking, though, is I'm going to pick this player because he has high upside. I think the offense is going to be much improved with the wide receivers they drafted and just by the looks of him and the confidence that the coach and GM has on him already. He struggled last year, but I'm looking for a big year, too. I'm going Zach Wilson for my backup quarterback. And then it's my turn again. Brandon might shoot me. He is so annoyed how I'm drafting right now.
Why the fuck would you take a backup quarterback 2 rounds after your starter?
Because Zach Wilson has a lot of talent where he could be QB1 for
But
the
you
but
only
he's
start
gonna-
one
yeah, he's
quarterback.
You
gonna
only
start
have
for
one
1
bench. You only
Who
have
knows?
4 bench spots.
I like to be able to pick. I like having good 2 quarterbacks to be able to pick. Anyway.
We have Nick on the show to teach you how not to fucking play fantasy football.
All right, wait. He only got 30 seconds. Let him finish. Oh, he's still thinking. In that case, I'm going to recap the last couple of picks. Dom drafted Tom Brady at the 7-3, followed by Kenneth Walker, Traylon Burks, Cordero Patterson, Adam Thielen, Darnell Mooney. Brandon said he took Matt Stafford, Tony Pollard at the 7-10, Zach Wilson as Nick's pick at the 7-11, followed by Kareem Hunt, and then Rashad Bateman, and now Nick is on the clock at the 8-2.
With 4 seconds left, and he took Christian Watson. That was a good pick, in my opinion. I'm going to go with a guy who I think has much potential to break out this year, and it's already been made official that he's going to have a starting spot on the offense this year. I'm going with the hype and taking Gabriel Davis.
That's a good pick. That's who I would have wanted at my next pick. So after Nick, Juju Smith-Schuster was taken. Then Brandon grabbed Gabe Davis, followed by Brandon Ayuk, Chris Olave, Hunter Renfrow, Dak Prescott goes, Elijah Moore, and then that puts Dom on the clock with the 8-10.
I think Sleeper overvalues some of these rookies, even though they were taken in the first round. Sorry, Dom.
Melvin Gordon's still on the board. Chase Edmonds, James Cook, Devin Singletary. I am going to take a little bit. If James Cook doesn't end up taking over, I'm going to take Devin Singletary because of how high-powered that offense is. I think even though he's not the best running back, I think he can still be good with that offense.
That's a good pick. I got sniped. I wanted Devontae Smith. He was taken one pick before me. So now I got to rework what I have. I'm sitting at 3 running backs, 2 wide receivers. I am good on tight end and quarterback. I'll probably just go running backs and receivers for the rest of the draft. So I suppose that puts me taking Garrett Wilson here, which I don't love. But he was the first rookie taken off the board, and he's my 3rd wide receiver behind DJ Moore and Michael Pittman. So he really won't see much of my lineup anyway. So I'm okay with having him as my 3rd wide receiver. And then I'm going to follow him up with Robert Woods, who I think is going to be the wide receiver 1 in Tennessee for at least the start of the season, because Treylon Burks is a rookie and he's really good. But usually rookies don't take the league by storm in their first few weeks. So I think Robert Woods will have at least that first couple of weeks where I can rely on him to put up points. And then Chase Edmonds was taken after, and then that puts Dom on the clock.
All right. So Chase Claypool's on the board. Tyler Lockett, Christian Kirk. I'm going to be taking
3 seconds.
I took Chase Claypool. He's the 2 on that offense. I don't love the pick, but I was...
All right, so I was looking between Christian Kirk and Sky Moore. I probably would have gone Kirk just because he's already established as a good wide receiver and got a massive deal from the Jags. While Lawrence wasn't very impressive last year, hopefully with Doug Peterson and some new additions, the offense could get better this year. But I'll take the incoming rookie who was drafted in the 2nd round, who just inherited Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, and could potentially make an immediate impact and have quite a large target share in the wide receiver room in Kansas City. I'll take Sky Moore.
And that puts Nick on the clock with the 9-11.
Nick probably would have taken Sky Moore with his next pick.
I'm going tight end right now because I like Pat Fryermuth. I don't know how much offense he's going to get, but I can make this pick easily. Even if he does tank, he doesn't get a lot of points. Tight ends usually don't. So if he can get like 6 or 7 points a week, I live for that. So I'm going Pat Fryermuth.
Okay.
All right, so in between all those picks, after Dom was Dallas Goedert, followed by Zach Ertz. Tyler Lockett went next with Christian Kirk after him. Then Aaron Rodgers was drafted as teammate's 2nd quarterback, followed by Sky Moore by Brandon. Then Rashad Penny. Nick just picked Pat Fryermuth. And then since then, on the turn of round 10, James Cook was drafted, and Mike Gesicki followed, putting Nick back on the clock.
So I need a 3rd running back. I'm going to pick this running back because he's in a split with another running back, but I still think that he's liked well enough that they brought him back. Don't think you'll see a lot of starting time in my bench, but if someone gets injured, he's not a bad RB3. I'm going Melvin Gordon.
I don't think that's bad. Michael Carter follows, which then puts Brandon on the clock at the 10-4.
All right. I don't like any of the running backs left. I'm probably going to stay away from them. I already have 4 wide receivers, so I don't necessarily need one. I could take one, but again, I don't need one. So right now I have an interesting opportunity where since rushing points for quarterbacks are a lot more than passing, that makes scrambling and rushing quarterbacks a lot more valuable. So what I'm going to do here is take a chance on potential upside with Trey Lance, with Kyle Shanahan, and if he can step up and he can get some rushing opportunity in, he could place higher than Matt Stafford or just be a decent backup if Stafford were to get injured.
All right. Then following Trey Lance goes Kadarius Toney, Ramondre Stevenson. Did I say that name right?
Yes.
Derek Carr, and then Ronald Jones, followed by Kirk Cousins. And now Dom is on the clock with the 10-10.
I love this pick. DeAndre Hopkins is out. He's on the Cardinals. Rondale Moore.
Yeah, that's a good pick.
Rondale Moore goes with Dom's pick, followed by Isaiah Spiller, which then puts me on the clock. I am actually ecstatic that I was able to land this player in the 10th round with the last pick in James Robinson. He, from what I've heard, the coaching staff still really like him and think he can be a very, very big producer in that offense. He is coming off an Achilles tear, which probably puts him out for the start of the season, and he won't necessarily be back at the early parts of it. But when he does come back, that team is still trying to figure out who they want to roll with. They do have Travis Etienne ahead of him, and that's why he has he's being drafted this low because of the draft capital in Travis Etienne. But I do think that James Robinson can still produce, and to have him as my 4th running back in the 10th round, I think that's great value. And then my final pick of the draft is going to be Jamal Williams. Jamison Williams from the Lions. The rookie, he was the 2nd rookie drafted this year. And I think that he will be very good in Detroit. But again, he's my 5th wide receiver and won't see my lineup. So if he does, great. Then awesome. If he doesn't, then that's perfectly fine.
Well, Alexander Madison got picked before me. I was going to take Jason Williams as my 5th receiver, but instead I'm going to go with my backup tight end, and I'm going to go Hunter Henry.
That was a good pick because I was looking at him. He was the tight end 10 last year.
8.
Was he 8 in PPR?
Yeah, he was 8.
Okay, yeah. Hunter Henry did well last year. I like Hunter Henry, not a lot due. But I think Mac Jones is going to make a pretty good jump in year 2.
Oh,
so I think he's going to do really well. Russell Gage could be a sneaky pick with Godwin out for quite a while. So I'm thinking between him, Devontae Parker, and then it was Hunter Henry, but he obviously just got taken. So what I'm going to do is take Devontae Parker only because I think he's going to end up being the wide receiver 1 if he can stay healthy. If not, he's my wide receiver 5, so it's not a big deal.
I hate you.
Yeah, fuck yourself, Nick.
The
only other guy who I thought about picking would have been a backup tight end in David Njoku because Austin Hooper is gone. David Njoku, I think he's probably one of my guys who could very well come up as top 15 tight end this year. I liked him and his talent a lot. He's now the starting tight end and got a big deal. So he was notable.
You were right.
So
he in PPR was Hunter Henry in PPR was a 10.
Okay.
So I'm triggered now because you stole my pick. So I'm going to do something I know it's going to upset you. I'm going to go with this guy because I think he's going to have a great second year. He's going to be on fire, throwing to guys like you guys mentioned previous. I'm going to go with my man, the myth, the legend, the soon-to-be first ballot Hall of Famer, Mac Jones.
As a 3rd quarterback.
Takes
a third quarterback.
A 3rd quarterback.
Just to trigger
Nick,
you
that
guys.
was the worst fucking
Just
draft
to
I've
trigger
ever
you guys.
seen.
All
Are
right,
you
all right.
kidding me?
To recap the 11th round, it's been a while since we... Yeah, to recap the 11th round, Alexander Madison went at the 11-2 after my pick, followed by Dom with Hunter Henry, followed by Deshaun Watson at the 11-4. Alan Lazard went at the 11-5 with Michael Gallup, Tyler Boyd, and Cole Kmet following him. Brandon drafted Devontae Parker, and then Russell Gage was drafted in between Brandon and Nick's picks, with Nick, as you just heard, drafting Mac Jones. And to close out our first mock draft of the 2022 NFL season, Marquez Valdez-Scantling was drafted with the 11-12.
Team 2 has 6 running backs.
All right, so to recap, my team, I have Matt Stafford, Nick Chubb, Zeke Elliott. Did I just say Elliott? Okay, I'm going to start over. My quarterback is Matt Stafford. My running backs are Nick Chubb and Ezekiel Elliott. I have Jamar Chase and Mike Williams at wide receiver, TJ Hawkinson at tight end, Josh Jacobs is my flex and my only other running back. So my running backs were pretty thin, but I took upside in who could potentially break out or do a lot better than they did last year and produce for my team. My bench, I've got Gabriel Davis, Sky Moore, Trey Lance, and Devontae Parker.
For me, my team, I have Tom Brady as my QB, no backups. As my running backs, I have Austin Eckler and Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Devin Singletary on my bench as a backup. For my wide receivers, I have CeeDee Lamb, Mike Evans, and then on my bench, I have Chase Claypool and Rondell Moore. My tight ends are Dawson Knox and my bench tight end, Hunter Henry and Amari Cooper, which I forgot to mention, as my flex.
I personally don't like my team. I think out of the 4 of us, I have the third. I would say the third worst team overall. I really like Dom's receiving core, and I like Brandon's running backs. I at quarterback have Russell Wilson. My 2 running backs starting are Jonathan Taylor and Leonard Fournette. I have Miles Sanders at my flex as my third running back, which I think those 3 are great, and I'm glad that I have them all. I'm just not so sure about my wide receiving core, with DJ Moore and Michael Pittman being my 2 starters, and then Garrett Wilson and Robert Woods following them off the bench, and then Mark Andrews at my tight end spot, which I think personally will be a top 2 tight end this year, and I was thrilled to get him at the end of the second round.
So for my team, I think I tried out a new strategy because this isn't Dynasty. This is just redraft, high risk, high reward players. For running backs, I have Saquon Barkley. Yet again, high risk. But if he is anything like he was his first year, oh boy, watch out.
Dog shit.
I got David Montgomery, who's a good running back. And then Melvin Gordon. For wide receivers, I have Devontae Adams, Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin just got a huge extension, so he must be a big part of the offense. Upgrade in quarterback, even though it's still Carson Wentz. I got Drake London. It's either going to be him or Pitts that are going to be getting the targets. High risk, high reward. Christian Watson, he's the guy that's got to be thrown potentially all the targets to by Aaron Rodgers. And then I have, for quarterbacks, I have Kyler Murray, Zach Wilson, and Mac Jones. Zach Wilson and Mac Jones, if they go off,
doo-doo ass.
they could go off, and if they go off, that's great. So it's either my team's going to be really good or really bad. This is a mock draft.
You can also tell Nick, once again, really likes going along with the hype and the youth. There were rumors that Saquon is once again going to come back and make a comeback this year, so he's jumping off of that with Saquon. And then Christian Watson, Drake London, 2 talked about wide receivers going into the draft. So it's all about what you value and prioritize. But again, this is a mock draft.
The thing is, people think at like, oh, you're just following the hype train, like kind of like it's a bad thing. I can see it where you're just putting blind faith. But for these guys to be mentioned with this much hype over and over again, there's a reason for that. It's because they have the abilities, they have the talent, they have the skills to do that. I'm not saying because they have that.
There's people like that every
talent.
year, though. Like,
right.
People need something to talk about. It's
Well,
not
yeah.
just like...
It's a matter of, like, is he actually back and healthy again, or do they want him in?
They say that he's actually back and healthy and looks great.
I'll believe it when I see it. That's as simple as that. All right, I want to play a quick game before we go.
Game time.
Okay.
Kick off.
Jason, don't piss me off. All right. I want to play a quick game. Now that we've drafted, what would you name this team?
Which team?
Like the team that you just drafted, imagine this is your team going into the season. What do you name it? Wow, well, I want you. I mean, you can be realistic if you want. Jason normally just.
Oh yeah, I would leave it as the default team. I never change my team name because
Jason's team is always literally just Jason's team.
I usually make 30 trades per season. So like by the time I make a trade, by the time I name my player or name my team after a player, that player is probably gone 2 weeks into the year, and then I have to change my name. Right. So I would leave it as my default. But if I had to choose one to go along with the game, I would probably call it More Than a Feeling after DJ Moore.
I think we all know what I would name my team. I have CeeDee Lamb.
Oh my God.
CeeDee's nuts.
With a Z after nuts, probably.
You could say CD's Henry nuts, like CD's hairy nuts.
All right, for my team, I usually like to name my team after whoever I draft in the first round, or whoever I think will be my best player. So with having taken Jamar Chase, I'm going to name my team High Speed Chase.
That's pretty bad.
I like being
I think
punny
that one's cool.
like that.
Well, let me look at your
that.
team. I don't know.
And I'll just go ahead and speak for Nick.
I know what I would
because
name
he's
his
thinking
team.
really hard. He would name his last place team.
I'd go Mac Attack.
You know what? I think Dom right now would love to trade me for Nick Chubb just so he could name his team CD's Chubby Nuts.
Yes, CeeDee's Chubby Nuts.
I'd go
That's
Mac
the
Attack.
best team name.
All right,
That's
so let's
already
go through.
your team name in Dynasty.
I know it is.
So let's go through that.
Go home, Nick.
Why? Why? Because you don't like
Fucking go
Mac
home.
Jones?
No.
Oh my
You
goodness.
make me not want to like him.
Yeah.
You're making me not want to like him.
Well, guess what? When he goes off this year, then I'm going to remind you of this conversation.
Just
So
stop.
the second half of
you
that
said
draft.
the same thing about Joe Burrow.
Shut the fuck
Yeah, you did.
The second half of that draft went way faster than I was expecting it to. So let's go through and what is the first trade that you would try to make, knowing now what team you have?
Devin Singletary for Christian McCaffrey.
Realistically, what
Okay,
is the
okay.
move? Like, look at your weaknesses on your team. What is
I
the first
don't-
thing that you would try to do to improve yourself?
I would try to get a better running back, knowing I have Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I think he's a pretty solid back. He hasn't been able to stay healthy.
If I was hurting at running back, Dom, I would actually. You know what? Okay, I would propose this trade to you then. I would be willing to trade you Leonard Fournette and Michael Pittman for Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Mike Evans.
Pittman, Fournette for Evans and Hilaire.
Yep.
Pittman, I could see me doing that.
I think it helps both of our teams because you're really stacked at wide receiver, so you can afford to trade back one of them and slot either Amari Cooper or Pittman into your starting lineup, and you get an upgrade at running back, trading Edwards-Helaire for Fournette, and then you'd have Eckler and Fournette as your two running backs, and then you would still have CeeDee, Michael Pittman, and Amari Cooper as your two receivers in your flex. So you're really upgrading at your RB2 position, which is where you think your weak spot is, and I upgrade at my wide receiver 1 position, which is where I think my weak spot is. And you lose a little depth at receiver, I lose a little depth at running back. So I think that helps both teams.
You have 2 rookies. Nick, I don't think anybody's trading with Nick. He has 2 rookies and 3 QBs.
Nobody would trade with Nick because he would try to trade Saquon Barkley two games into the season for somebody else drafted in the first round.
Yeah.
And then when somebody lowballs him, he would say, I drafted Saquon Barkley in the first round. He's worth somebody in the first round.
So this is honestly what I would do.
Drake London's at your
Dominic
flex.
thinks that no matter, he thinks my dynasty team is junk. Whoever I draft, I could draft literally Cooper Kupp, and he'd be like, "Oh, dude, he's trash. Yeah, no one's gonna trade anybody on his team."
Dude,
like
no one, literally nowhere ever right now is Saquon being drafted in the first round anymore.
well, it's the 111 pick. I could have gone with 202, and you guys would have been easier on that.
I would have been easier on you if you had taken Swift, and then Saquon would have definitely been there for you at your next pick.
Or you would also be getting, I think, roasted less if you would have drafted Devontae Adams in the first round and then taken Saquon on the turn.
That's what I said. That's the only fucking difference. And guess what? I don't buy. Okay.
I get what you're saying. But
I don't buy into the whole, oh my goodness, you drafted him in the 3rd round. He's going in the 5th round. I'm Bill Belichick on this bitch. I don't care. I'm going to pick the guy that I like. And if you think it's too early, then you guys can screw it when I'm on my way to a championship.
This is coming from...
That's all I don't
This
care.
is coming from who was in last place last year.
No, I don't even care about
For
that.
redraft,
This is coming from
I
Nick,
literally won a championship last
who
year.
openly flamed Bill Belichick for taking that exact same approach,
Yes.
drafting an offensive lineman in the
You
first
literally
round
said
of the
you
draft
fucking
this
hate
year.
him because of that. You literally said you fucking hate him
Anyway,
because of
Nick,
that.
I just thought that they
were
could've gone
starting.
wide receiver.
You were starting to go down a path of what you would do to improve your team.
So this is what I would do.
I like Terry.
Dominic,
I was
my
going to say, Dom, let him finish.
this is what I would do. I would wait with a team like this where it's so hit and miss. I know at least 1 or 2 players are going to pop off. I don't know the extent of what my team will need. I don't see any holes in my eyes. I don't see any holes like that I would need desperately, like a running back, wide receiver, tight end, anything like that. So what I would do is I'd wait a couple weeks, see how it's going, and then kind of address the situation from there.
I think, and this isn't shade at you, I think because of how you drafted, that's really your only option because you reached on so many players that you can't realistically trade them right now to gain value in a trade.
And that's what I was thinking, and that's fine. I mean...
Right, yeah. So, I 100% agree. Your best move is to wait it out 3 weeks into the season, see what you have.
and then sell high if anyone
Yeah.
does
Right,
well on
exactly.
the off chance that they're not going to do well second half of
Exactly.
the season.
And like I trade a lot too, so it's not always about in fantasy football or like in sports in general. It's not about how you start the season; it's how you end it. So if I barely make the playoffs, or if I, am, not first overall going into the playoffs, that doesn't matter. It's a new season, so it's anyone's game from there. Especially in fantasy football where an injury could linger on into the playoffs because just how we do it.
All right, and Brandon, what would your one trade try to... You don't have to... It doesn't have to be anything specific, but what pieces would you try to package to upgrade somewhere
so
else?
I mean, if I wanted to go risky here and go all in on Trey Lance, hoping that he would step up and be top 10 in fantasy production this year, I could try to sell Matt Stafford. Looking to see who has Cooper Kupp team 4. They didn't take a quarterback until the second to last round, or the last 2 rounds. They took Kirk Cousins and Deshaun Watson, and they have Cooper Kupp, who they took at the 104. So what I'm thinking right now is I would try to sell him Matt Stafford for maybe some depth at the running back position. Or actually, he's only got 2 running backs, so I would try to sell him Matt Stafford so that he could stack him with Cooper Kupp, and then maybe try to snag Hopkins, who I could throw in later in the season. And since I have no depth at the running back position, I've only got 3. If one were to get injured, I could have the only other 2 that I have in there, and then have Hopkins at my flex later in the season, or any of the other wide receivers that I have.
Aaron Jones is there. He's a top 10 back. He finished 10
my
last
point is
year.
though, Team 4 only has 2 running backs,
Yeah.
which wouldn't
So
realistically happen. But
So if I were you, the move that I would try to make is I would try to package Mike Williams and Gabe Davis to get a better wide receiver 2, where you have a lot of wide receiver depth and you can still plug Sky Moore in it whenever you want. And because you have Josh Jacobs, you don't need to ever start more than 2 receivers at once. So Jamar Chase is a lock every week. I would take Mike Williams and Gabe Davis and maybe come over to Team 2, who has Jalen Waddle as really his only startable wide receiver, and be like, hey, I would give you Mike Williams and Gabe Davis for Jalen Waddle, and then have that as a starting point and kind of build from there.
yep, that's
Team
good.
2 is
The only other thing I thought about is basically trying to sell Devontae Parker high to Nick, who really liked and wanted him.
Devontae Parker for Melvin
because he could have
Gordon.
also stacked him with Mac Jones, so I maybe would have tried to get him for I don't even know what, because I know
It wouldn't be
Nick,
much.
Nick wouldn't
No.
accept anything. So
Well, no, it's not that. It's my 5th wide receiver. I'm not going to overpay for, a high upside guy like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but there's also the potential that Christian Watson and or Drake London bust as rookie wide receivers, so you don't know.
True, but I wouldn't be willing to pay. I mean, because there's no like draft picks or anything, so I'm not gonna be willing to trade 2 players for that one player. Like I know you like.
No, not really. Like again, like see that wouldn't be a good matchup between me and you because you and I both only have 3 running backs, so you and I both could use depth at running back.
Yeah.
And I have one more wide receiver than you, so that's where I could take advantage and try to sell one of my wide receivers that is not Jamar Chase to you, for one that is already known to produce and yeah.
Looking at Team 10, through the first 6 rounds, I think he had a near perfect draft. And then he kind of fell apart after the fact.
With Russell Gage, Michael
Tony-
Carter, Rashad Penny.
No, so Tony Pollard over Kareem Hunt is the first mistake he made. If he has
Oh,
Kareem
yeah.
Hunt at his flex with Joe Mixon and DeAndre Swift starting, T. Higgins and Amon-Ra St. Brown starting, Dalton Schultz at tight end, and Kareem Hunt as his flex, that's like a borderline unbeatable starting 7. And then the next mistake I think he made is taking Juju Smith-Schuster over Gabe Davis. He
Or
could've-
Christian Watson.
Yep, either or no. Christian Watson was drafted 1 pick.
Oh,
before
I'm
that.
sorry.
Yeah,
I'm
by
sorry.
Nick.
Yeah.
And then he could have probably drafted Melvin Gordon over Rashad Penny and been better off. And then
I heard Rashad Penny's gonna
Honestly,
start
yeah.
right now.
I mean, yeah, I agree, but
I mean,
with
so like I
Kenneth
can
Walker
see
and
it.
Chris Carson being there, he's a very low upside pick. Like everything has to go right for him.
Yeah.
Whereas Melvin Gordon is going to at least start the season putting up points, and you know what to expect from him. So I think if he makes the Kareem Hunt pick, Gabe Davis, and Melvin Gordon, all of a sudden, like his team is by far the best of anybody's in this draft.
So who do we all think had the best draft of the 4 of us?
Of
I
the
think
four
it
of
was.
us.
I think Brandon did.
I think he has the most upside for his players.
Tom's like,
Like,
please pick me.
Jamar Chase,
I think it would have been Nick.
Trey Lance.
Or sorry, I think it would have been Dom if Brandon would have got to actually pick at the 6'4" instead of taking TJ Hawkinson. Because I think he would have reached for a quarterback, and that would have
That's actually true. There's a good chance I would have done that.
the only person on your team that I don't like at the position you have them is Mike Williams. But
I like
other
Mike
than that, like
Williams.
your team is really deep and has a lot of upside and also a high floor.
So what sucks about Mike Williams is he's true boom or bust, where as your wide receiver 2, honestly, the wide receiver position in general is not a very consistent position, except for those who are like very top tier, like those who are drafted in the first 2 rounds. So as my wide receiver 2, I mean, he was the wide receiver 1 through like the first 5 weeks last year, and it was very inconsistent, but he still ended up as the wide receiver 12. So I'd be willing to take that chance, and where, he goes off along with Jamar Chase, on those weeks where Mike Williams pops off, it would be very hard to beat me.
I agree, but Jamar Chase had a very similar season to that last year where there were some games where he's putting up 50 fantasy points, but then some games where he's getting 3 targets for 30 yards. Where, like, Mike Williams is a very extreme case of that. But if both Jamar Chase and Mike Williams dud, like, you're losing that week 10 out of 10 times. I think probably this is, like, with hindsight, knowing what the rest of your team is. Chris Godwin probably would have been a better pick, in my opinion, there, because then while Chris Godwin sits out the first 4 weeks, you have Gabe Davis or Sky Moore that you can plug in as the starting spot. And then when Chris Godwin comes back, you all of a sudden have 2 wide receiver 1s sitting at your wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2 spot behind a 3-headed monster at running back.
Good point.
But again, like, obviously in the moment, you're not going to be like, well, I could take Chris Godwin here, and then 5 rounds from now, Gabe Davis will be there, and I'll snag him.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to, especially as early as the 5th round, where you're still drafting your starters, to look at a guy and be like, I know that he's out for the first 6 weeks, but I'm going to take him here and not start him the first 6 weeks.
I'm perfectly
it would take
okay
a lot
with
of
doing that.
it would take a lot of discipline to do that, knowing and realizing that they won't be there for you till later on when the season is also going to be very different.
I
than then.
am perfectly, like, always will be the one that it's like, this player finished as the wide receiver 12 last year. I don't care. Like, if I can get that player in the 5th round, I'm going to do it every time. I trust myself in my ability to draft depth at those positions. I would have taken Chris Godwin as my wide receiver 1 and had DJ Moore as my wide receiver 2, and then targeted receiver more heavily in the 6th and 7th rounds. But I didn't want to reach a full round on Chris Godwin. But yeah, I am 100% always okay with taking those guys that like had injuries last year, especially in Chris Godwin's case where he's so young, and while he quote unquote might miss the 4 weeks of the season, that's like worst case scenario. He's not back yet, but there's rumors that he might be ready for training camp, might be ready for preseason, and then he just has to get healthy after that. So if he does end up ahead of his timetable, instead of missing 4 weeks of the season, he's missing 2 weeks of the season, missing 1 week of the season, maybe starting week 1 not 100%. So I always am one that is going to be able to take that high floor wide receiver despite the fact that they're going to miss time. Just like DeAndre Hopkins. I probably would, again, if I didn't have to reach so hard for him, would have taken him because I know what he can be when he's on the field. I'm okay with waiting the first 6 weeks to have him, especially if I have other receivers ahead of him that can hold his spot while he's gone.
Yeah, and Chris Godwin was the wide receiver 16 last year and missed 3 or just over 3 games. So with him missing 4 to 6 games, there's a good chance that he's still going to be within that top 24 range.
No, I agree.
So
I
having
also
thought of that, I probably could have gone back and should have gone back and taken Godwin. It was just at hindsight thinking, oh, he's out the first 6 weeks. I'm like, I just didn't want to deal with it.
I also don't like those. At the end of the season, this player finished as the wide receiver 20. This player finished as the wide receiver 30. Because in cases like Chris Godwin or Derrick Henry last year, Derrick Henry was like the wide receiver 13 or something like that, or the running back 13 last year. But it's because he missed half the season.
Mm-hmm.
Like on a per game basis, those players are elite and are top 5 at their position. Well, Chris Godwin might not be top 5, but top 10 at his position, arguably. So like while he's going to finish as the wide receiver 24 at the end of the year, I'm okay with drafting it. Like I'm okay with drafting him as the wide receiver 24, which he's not here, but you know what I mean. Like in that realm of players that have the potential to finish at the wide receiver 24. If in the second half of the season I'm getting a wide receiver 12.
True.
All
right. Well, everyone listen to Jason. It's just when it gets to draft time, like. This is why I don't want to draft early either, because especially like once you draft, you look at your team and then you start to think of things like that, and then it just lingers, and then you want to start trading and try to fix your team.
Especially when you have a group of friends who are also picking apart the draft, and like every time that I look at everybody's team and I'm like, I know exactly what I'd do if I were them. And then when somebody asks me, well, what do you think of my team? I'm gonna be honest with them. I'm gonna be like, well, I think you're weak at running back. You probably should trade away a running back, and you are a person that are like, well, shit, you're right. And then all of a sudden you're rethinking your entire life because you made confident picks a month ago, but now all of a sudden you're thinking something completely different, and then it's week 2 of the season and you want to trade away your whole starting lineup.
Yeah, and
But I'm the same way. If somebody else is like, yeah, your receivers suck, I'm like, I fucking know my receivers suck. Let me just go do something about it. And then I'll trade away my entire team so I can have a good wide receiver.
Were you going to say something?
No.
I think it's so tough, like with mock drafts, I don't know. I feel like there's something different about drafting your team for real than mock drafts. Because
But that's what mock drafts are for. That's why you want to treat it like you're drafting for real.
No, I do, but like there's I don't know.
I hope
Maybe-
Nick drafts that same team when we do our keeper league or our redraft
I'm
league.
not going to.
But no, I see where Nick's coming from though. Like this is the time where you should be experimenting with strategies, seeing what ADPs are looking like, which players are going to fall. Be experimental now to hone in what you actually want to do later.
Where I see what Nick is saying comes in is the difference between drafting with an AI and only a couple friends and having an entire league with people who, are valuing different positions and things differently and having a different perspective and different strategies, and like people who legit know what they're doing and playing. It's not just solely based off of ADP and the pick is right away.
I think,
and then you have a team that drafts like 5 running backs in a row,
I think,
and then 2 wide receivers.
For the next one, we should post it on the global sleeper chat and be like mock draft starting in 10 minutes and have people join in. and do it that way. So that way it's more competitive and harder and more of a challenge rather than getting people falling. Not that
Well,
the AI didn't do
like-
bad. I got sniped like 3 times by team 2, but it just makes it more realistic and more competitive.
The thing that bugs me about mock drafts, though, is like with the AIs, is that you know who exactly they're gonna pick. They're gonna pick whoever that's next in line.
Well, that's not
But when-
necessarily true.
Well,
it's
I mean,
like-
I feel like it is. Like,
Whoever's closer to the top.
I
Like
do
what
agree,
we talked about
if you,
earlier.
If you can clearly see that a team needs a receiver, they're going to take the top receiver off the board, but they're not just going to keep taking in order the people on the ADP
well,
list.
I like when drafting with humans, right? What I don't know. There's like the human error, even though it might not be an error. Everybody, like what you guys were saying, thinks they need to pick a certain position next, or like this, they like this person a little bit better than this person, even though the ADP might say that they should go with a better player. You know what I'm
One
saying?
good example is when quarterbacks are taken. So normally once, like Josh Allen and in the past couple of years, Mahomes, once he's been taken, it's usually like a round or two, like around the fifth round.
Yeah.
Quarterbacks just start to fly.
Yeah, once
in
somebody
real drafts.
Once somebody picks one, everybody panics. And you
Right.
grab them.
But then what happened here is also because we know what we're doing, we wanted to wait a little bit. Team 2 took Josh Allen in the second round, which is probably not going to happen in real life. And then you had one team that waited until the last 2 rounds, or the 11th and 12th rounds, to just take Cousins and Watson.
So
back to
I
back.
personally think that is realistic because every fantasy league has a player like that is going to be like, quarterbacks are the most important position in football. I'm going to draft one now and lock up the best guy on the board. And they're going to draft Josh Allen in the second round. Or you're going to have that homer guy who's going to draft Tom Brady as the first overall pick or whatever it is. Like, no fantasy league with all your friends is going to be a bunch of experts that know what they're doing. Like, most people are average fantasy or average football fans that just want to do fantasy football.
That's
'cause
part
they
of the
think it's
fun too, because like technically, there's a good argument to be made that I should have taken Joe Mixon or DeAndre Swift with my first round pick. Like, I have some objectivity in it, but also going along with the hype and how well he did last year and just the excitement of this new breakout player. Which is part of the reason why we play fantasy football. We just have guys that like we like the new up and coming, like having that new guy on your team and seeing him like blast off, like having
Be able to watch him too.
So like I think that's what kind of set me over the edge in taking Jamar Chase and then trying to make up for it by taking 3 running backs after. So that is our first mock draft. We will, that was our review of it. And I think next month, like we said, we're going to try to get some real people in it, try to make it as realistic as possible. So we'll come back to that in like a month.
So like August, and then we're gonna be drafting for real.
We'll be drafting for real, hopefully by the end of next month or going into September.
Are we
So-
recording that?
Probably the redraft. but
Yeah,
not-
I would say
but not the keeper.
redraft, yes, because it's going to be like a random person league, but the keeper, no, because we're going to have like a draft.
That's
party and
all of
stuff
our
like
friends
that.
and family and stuff. Like, we're probably going to be at B-dubs for that.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
tune in next week. Happy 4th of July weekend. A bunch of bums signing off.